Okay, everyone, welcome to Back to Basics. This is going to be module 1. I have about 15 or 16. I do sometimes just keep adding more. But today's is I have a buyer, now what? And it's what to do when you get that buyer call or somebody says I have somebody that wants to buy a house. You're like, what do I do, right? So you should all have this packet. It had a paper clip on it. It's the only one that had a paper clip on it. And it says I have a buyer, now what? If you get a phone call, sometimes they catch you off guard and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're not all prepared. But some questions that you want to ask are, when are you looking to purchase? That's the first thing. They're like, oh, I got your name and number from so-and-so. What, I want to buy a home. Okay, great. That's awesome. Thanks so much. When are you looking to purchase? Because that's super important. If they're looking to purchase now or at the end of the year or spring of next year, it all matters. Because if it's spring of next year, guess what? You're going to put them on a search and just let them go. Just keep following up with them. If they're not ready right now, sometimes it's financial. They're like, I'm waiting for something to fall off, bankruptcy or foreclosure or something that's going to fall off, but I can't buy, but I just want to see what the market's doing right now until I'm ready. But I always ask, who will be purchasing? Is it just you? Is it a spouse? Is it a parent on there? Because you need everybody's input. I've had that happen where it's a husband and wife, and the wife's like, yep, I'm taking lead. I set them up on a search, and then we go off for this first showing, and the husband's like, this isn't what I want. She wants a 1-story, he wants a 2-story, and you're like, oh my gosh. But you need to really have a conversation with everybody. So you get the initial information from that person, and then you set up a Zoom call, or you come into the office. Can I meet you? I'd love to sit down with you, give you my buyer presentation so you know what to expect in the process. I've got some things in here that I'll show you, but there's a whole buyer presentation you're going to want to put together just like a listing presentation, right? It explains who you are, who the company you work for, what the process is, what they need to do, because we have to hold them accountable. A lot of people just are like, oh, they want to buy, tell me what your price is, great, let's go. No, they need to get documents to the lender, they need to pick an area, a school, whatever it is that is important to them. But they need to get some things done ahead of time, and there's places that you can go. I did not include it in here. Everybody write this down. It's a website called breakthroughbroker.com, BREAKTHROUGH, broker, BROKER.com. And it's a free service to realtors. Back in the day, we get unlimited amounts of downloads. Now they've changed it. Breakthrough Broker, BREAKTHROUGH, broker.com. And so it's unlimited. Well, it's 3 downloads a month, but you can print off anything. Sign-in sheets, buyer guides, like this little thing right here inside your back that you're going to see. It's one of my favorite things to give buyers. It's like a little home buyer roadmap. You're going to meet with your realtor, the buyer's advantage. You're going to get pre-approved. You're going to search for homes, and it gives them really colorful things, so it's not just so boring and laid out on a piece of paper. You can go to Breakthrough Broker, but you can also go to Heather, the marketing rep for Rock Title at the end of the hall. She can get you all this stuff too, and it's made directly from Rock Title. So it's got your title company, it's got Realty One information, it's got your information. BreakthroughBroker.com, I do a lot of my flyers on there for my listings and for my open houses. So it's a great resource for you guys to go. So tinker around in there. But you're going to want to kind of, on this phone call, I don't want to say pre-approve them because you're not pre-approving them, but you're pre-approving on your position of, are they legitimate buyers? What their purpose is, when they want to move, are they ready, or are they just, some people just want to view homes. Like they've got nothing else to do, and they don't realize that every time you go out to view homes, you're hoping for a sale, but they're tying up your time for the legitimate buyers that are actually ready to go. They're like, oh, I'm not going to be ready for 3 or 4 months, but I just want to go look at homes. I have nothing else to do. You'll get people that'll fly in town for the weekend, and they're like, oh, can you reserve your whole Saturday for me? Can you pick me up at the hotel? They think we are just their servants. So you have to start. My number one thing is your posture, guys. I could show you some homes, or this is how I do it. We're going to set an appointment. We're going to go at this time to have you talk to you have to show them that you're in charge. You don't have to be rude, but if you don't start off like that, they will trample all over you, and they will just dominate your time. I kid you not. And you get the wives that's like the stay-at-home moms, And I've been there where I'm like, okay, what am I going to do today? And you're like, let's go look at homes. You know what? If you're not serious, go look at the model homes. But by me stopping what I'm doing, calling the homeowner, making the appointment, they're pulling out their dogs, they're taking their kids on a walk. For somebody that's not even ready, that's really not fair because they're running around cleaning their house, they're doing everything for somebody that's not even going to buy. So you always have to qualify them. You'll get people that'll say, I'll get qualified. I'll talk to the lender once I find a house. Guess what? By the time you find the house and then you talk to the lender and get him all your documents and then he pre-approves you, that house is going to be long gone. It could take a week, 2 weeks, and then that's if they don't have anything going on. You know, if they're like perfect, which is 9 times out of 10 not the case, then they could probably get a pre-approval in 24 to 48 hours. But otherwise, it takes a week or so. The lender will have a checklist of things that they have to get to the lender for the lender to pre-approve them, to send it to the underwriter, then they get the pre-approval, then they send it to you, and then you set them up on the search. So a lot has to happen. So for them to just go, let's just go look at homes, I don't even know what price range. I don't even know what kind of loan you're approved for. Because you guys aren't there yet, but when you get into the MLS system, when I'm setting up a search for my buyers, there's a spot in there that lets me designate what kind of loan they're getting. Conventional, FHA, VA. So why would I, if they are getting a VA loan, why would I show them FHA or conventional homes? Why would I even let them go to their email? Because they're going to fall in love with it, and guess what? That seller is not even going to entertain VA loans. So now they're like, no, I want to see that one. Oh, sorry, you can't. They don't want your loan. So you have to know what's their price range. You have to know what type of loan that they're approved for, so then you can set up their search. Because they always like, just send me houses. Well, there's steps before we go to see the houses, or even that I send you houses. Yes?
When it's new homes, you usually have to go through their lending companies, right? So how would you approach that?
So you don't have to, but they give you some really nice incentives if you do. So with that, that's when you say, when I get a buyer that calls me, I'm like, what are you looking for? Da, da, da. Are you open to new builds as well? Or if they just say, I just want a new home. Well, are you open to viewing resales as well? So then that way we can because sometimes people buy a house and in less than a year, they get transferred somewhere else. So it's technically a brand new home. It's just on the resale one. It's just not being sold by the builder. So at that point, that's when I say, well, let's start off by getting you approved by the lender. It's a double-edged sword here because now the lenders are doing work. And then there's, in the end, going to go to the new build. But sometimes these new builds have a 5-month wait list. And they think they want new build, but then they're like, I got to get in here before the school starts. Let's just find a resale. So you're just, doing a little bit of extra. So you do try to get them to qualify with your lender first. Now, if they're like, nope, I only want new. I had a time period in my life where I'm only buying new for myself. I am not buying another resale. I have to redo the whole house. I don't want to do it. So there are some people that are adamant about that. And if that's the case, then you're like, great, what's your criteria? Let's look around. And then the first one you go to, if they kind of like it, just say, do you have a reference, a referral for your lender? I'd like to get them pre-approved. Because keep in mind, most of the time, their lenders, if you're at a D.R. Horton home and they give you a referral for their lender, that lender can probably sell you if you go to KB. You can stay with that same lender. It just depends because a lot of them are outside loan officers that they've just partnered up with them. But you can ask them, hey, if I choose not to buy D.R. Horton, can I use this same lender for something else? And then they'll let you know. But that's the only time you would take them to look at a home is new build that they aren't approved for. But if they're looking for resale, do not even bother doing that. I can't say that. I have taken they're like, no, I don't even know if we're gonna buy. I just wanna see what's out there in my price range. I'm like, okay, I'll send you a list just so you know. I don't know what type of loan, I don't know what your price point is, whatever. Let's go look at one and it has to be vacant so you can see. And then sometimes that's just enough to wet their feet. And then they're like, okay, yeah, let's do it right now. Sometimes you have to excite them, but don't get into the habit of doing that. We really do want you guys to get them pre-approved first because it's wasting your time, their time, the seller's time, everybody's time. Because I've seen it where they're like, nope, we're good. They make enough money, but what they didn't tell you is they owe $100,000 on credit cards. They have back child support. They have $3,000, $1,000 car loans. Just because they make the money does not mean their debt to income even qualifies them, you know? Or they make the money, but they have nothing saved. No down payment, no closing costs. Well, we can get, unless they get down payment assistance, they can't buy. And that's a government down payment assistance. Nobody's paying for their down payment. So there's things that we don't know. I don't like to get into their financials. I'm not a loan officer, so I always just say, you know what, I like to stay in my lane. I'm the realtor. I'm the one that's going to help you find the home and negotiate and get you closed. But the lender's the one that gives us the number. So I really do need to talk to that lender first. Here's a couple of lender cards, you know, so give them a call. Either one of them is good, but they're going to qualify you first. So just keep going back to the get. And then when you look at this little roadmap, it says it on there. And sometimes that's what you need, guys. You need something printed out from another company that tells them the steps. Because you just telling them, guess what, half the time, they don't believe us. You're just trying to make a buck. They don't, like, I know the process. I've bought and sold homes before. Okay, but this is how I need you to do it, right? And it tells you the third one, get approved. Then you search for homes. Then you do an advanced search. So there is a process. You don't know how to set up their home search until you find out what they're qualified for and what type of loan and how soon, because they think they're ready right now, but guess what? There's something that has to fall off before, or something they have to pay down. The lender will tell you, hey, you might have 3 credit cards. 1 out of the 3 needs to be paid down by $5,000. Well, guess what? That was their down payment. So now they have to pay that down in order to buy a house, but now they have to save $5,000 because they just used it for that. So it's just shifting money around. But the lender has to tell us that, right? So you want to meet with whoever's purchasing. And then I always ask them, will you be paying cash or will you be doing a loan? If they say cash, great. Are you able to produce a proof of funds for me? And that could be 401k. That could be a bank statement. Just say, you know, if you could just cross out your bank number, your account number, but I need to make sure that you have sufficient funds in there. You will not be making an offer on a home without a pre-approval letter or proof of funds for cash. You have some people sometimes that'll say, I'm going to put $200,000 down and get a loan for $300,000. Great. Lender gives me the pre-approval. I still need your proof of funds for $200,000 to show proof that you have that $200,000, because any listing agent like myself is going to say, thank you so much for your offer. I got your pre-approval. Can I please see your proof of funds? I need to know that money's there. And I'm not waiting till the last 2 days and going, wait, we're trying to pull it out of 401k, because that could take 7 days to take that, you know, that money out. Or maybe when you get a pre-approval or a proof of funds, it's 3 months or less. Don't give me a pre-approval letter or your bank statement from January when it's September. I want it 3 months or less. And if we're coming close to that 3-month date, guess what? I want the new one. I want something newer, because I wanted, people do that. They print it out and then they go buy a car, or then they rack up their bills, and next thing you know, they don't even qualify. And we just went under contract, took my listing off the market. So now it's not available to anybody that's ready right now, and they want you to wait. I'm not waiting 3 more months. My people need to sell right now. So then you have to drop, and now it looks bad as a listing agent that your house was off the market, now it's back on the market. Why is it back on? Everybody's calling. What happened? And chances of you getting a full price offer at that point is hard if people are not calling you going, why did it fall out? What's going on? Was it repairs? So we don't want to do that. So you want to make sure your buyers are qualified and you have the proof of funds or the pre-approval letter, right, before you take them out or write an offer. I always do ask if you have money for the down payment and closing costs saved up. Because sometimes they'll say, yep, I heard that I need $12,000, I'm just $2,000 short. So once I get that, I'll be able to, okay, when will you be able to save that? When, you know, is it in the next paycheck? Are we looking 3 months down the road? They kind of have an idea, because don't think that they haven't gone online and Googled and found out this information. But if they were good enough to talk to a lender, sometimes your buyers talk to the lender first and then find you, which is great, because then they come to you, they're already pre-approved. We like to use Epic Lending. John Morgan, Ricky Camus, they're awesome. But if they've already come to us and they're good, we can say, hey, this is awesome. Let's try to get a second opinion and see if we can save you any more money. But right now, let's go look at some homes. And so you're taking them out, but in the meantime, you're trying to get, because our Epic Lending works really close with Realty One Group, so they give our clients some really good deals and waive some extra fees. So with that, I always try to run them through there. And if not, if it's the same, Just let them decide. It's not up to us. Their finances, I let them decide what they want to do, right? So then I asked if they've spoken with the lender to pre-approval. What's your current living situation? Are you renting? When is your lease up? Because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to walk away. Well, you're going to walk away and you're going to have to pay that out. Or they can't break the lease. They're not allowed to, and my people are going to use their down payment money to break that lease. We don't want that. Sometimes they're like a month to month. But I went up from $2,000 a month to $3,000 because I'm month to month. But I'm looking to find a house like right now. It just tells you where they're at in their shopping. If they're like, hey, I've got 6 more months on my lease and then I'll be good to go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and set you up on a search. Talk to a lender. We're gonna set you up on a search on your price range, and then when you get closer, probably two and a half months away from that lease ending, that's when we'll go start looking. Because if you think about it, it's gonna take 30 to 45 days in the process. Doesn't even include the looking time. Once you make an offer and it's accepted, your close of escrow date is usually at least 30 to 45 days. Then you've got to tack on any kind of looking time. Very rarely do you find your dream home on your first showing, but it happens. So you just kind of want to allot for that. So I would allot for 2 to 2.5 months before their lease expires to start looking. And tell them, hey, if you find something today, just know, I don't know if they're going to allow us, because I would put a long escrow and say, hey, our lease ends at this point. Does anybody know when you get a loan, when is your first payment due? If I close today, which is September 9th, when is my first payment due?
2 months later?
It's 2 months, but it's the month you close in. So it would be you get all of September free, all of October free, so your payment's November 1st. So sometimes if you're teetering and you're like on September 30th or 29th, you're like, hey, let's just write the close of escrow date to October 1st. So now I get all of October and all of November, and my first payment is December. So keep that in mind. It's helpful for your clients. And if it looks like the escrow is very long, you're going to write a letter to the listing agent. I know that the close of escrow date seems really long, but this is what we're trying to do by pushing the first payment to this date. So if they have an overlap, like, hey, my lease is up October 1st, well, great, they get 2 months free, basically, the month you're in that month, and then their first payment is not due. We're trying not to have double payments, if you could do that for your clients. Sometimes they don't care. They're like, I just need in. I don't care about that. Okay. It's what's important to them, guys. We can give them that information, but it's sometimes, in the end, it's always up to them, but sometimes they just don't care. They're like, I just need a house. Okay, I'm here to help you find a house. But, all right. So then down here, explain the correct steps if they need to start the pre-approval process. You're going to want to keep the lender's cards handy. Have a couple of lender's cards, right? And just give it to them and then just say, hey, these are my suggestions, my referrals for lenders. Call whoever you want. If you know one, great. We do have, get some really great deals with Epic Lending, but, use whoever that you want. Again, I try not to get too involved in their finances, because then they come back and like, you told me to go with them and I got a higher interest. Nope, I gave you a couple of them, and you guys chose that person. So, but then talk to the lender for the pre-approval. So we already talked about why this is done first. The pre-approval is done first, so we know exactly what they qualify for and how to start them on their MLS search. And then I tell them, so you're going to talk to the lender, then you're going to come back to me so I can set you up on your search. Then we'll start viewing the properties, and then we'll make the offers. Provide them with a list of items that the lender will ask for, which I think I have in here. Closing costs, loan checklist. Right here, the very last page, loan checklist. This is from John Morgan at Epic. It'll say you need your current financials, income and employment, any properties that they own, any special cases, a landlord contract, bankruptcy papers, and then there's a do's and don'ts on the other side here on the right-hand side of the page. Do respond quickly. Sometimes they're like, oh, they talk to the lender and it takes them a week to get the paperwork. But then they're like, can we view homes? No, I need the pre-approval. You call the lender, he's like, they haven't sent me anything. So then you're like, oh, okay, now so you're trying to connect them, guys, because the faster the lender can get the pre-approval, the faster you can take them to look at homes, the faster you can get under contract, right? So can't imagine how many people just drag their feet at this process. Now, they'll tell you, I don't want them to ding my credit. Well, they're going to. Okay, so if they need to pull that information. But when they ding their credit, it's really just, they have 3 months, and every time they pull, like if they get John to pull it, there's a ding. But then if they go to D.R. Horton, it's not going to ding them the same because it's still the pull for the same home. Now, if you get pulled for a home, pulled for a credit card, pulled for a car loan, those are 3 separate dings, and it's going to drop their credit score. So if you know somebody's teetering, just say, let's pull, let's talk to the lender, see if they can do a soft pull right now, because they're just trying to see if they have any back child support or bankruptcy or what, that they need to see what they're dealing with, right? So that's where your lender comes in. We aren't expected to know all this information. I always say, you know what, that's a lender question, let's give John a call. And I will sit there with him and call. I don't want to guess, and I don't want to pretend like I know this. I've been doing this 20 years, and I honestly really don't know too much about loans. I don't want to know about loans, otherwise I'd be a lender. I don't want to do this. I just want to sell real estate. So don't be afraid to tell them, I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to ask title this. I'm going to ask the lender that. Don't be afraid to tell them that you don't know. Great question. Let me find out that answer for you. You have no problem saying that. Don't speak on something that you were not educated on, because they will hold you to it, and that's the fastest way to get sued. We don't want you to get sued. So, all right, so now page 2. If they're paying cash, again, you want to ask them for their proof of funds, but this is a great time to meet with them at the office too. So we talked about loans, we talked about cash, but even before you get there, you're going to have the phone conversation with them, and then if they're getting a loan, then just say, hey, I'm going to have you talk to my lender. Once they talk to the lender, meet with them. Meet with them at the office, on Zoom. I'm a face-to-face kind of person, and then if I'm going to start their MLS search, I like to do it in front of them. Or I'll do it on Zoom and share my screen, because they always think we're not showing them everything. I don't know why that is, but I always say, okay, what's your criteria? What's your area? What's your zip code? What's the school? Whatever it is that you're wanting me to look for. The price range, the type of loan, 1 story, 2 story. So I'm asking them all these questions, but I ask them questions like, do you have any pets? Yes, okay. Do you have any dogs? What size animal? How big are your dogs? What do they weigh? Because what people don't realize is there's vinyl fencing between some of these homes. They're not block walls. Anything over 60 pounds, the HOA might not allow them to have a 60-pound or more dog, because they jump on those vinyl fencing and knock the fencing over. So those are things that you just want to inquire. I always ask, do you have children? Will you be entertaining in your backyard? Do you need a backyard? Some people are like, I want low maintenance. Other ones are like, I want a ½ an acre. I want to add a pool. You know, those are questions. You're going to inquire about anything that you think would be pertinent for them to pick a home, right? So I like to sit with them, and then I do the MLS search while they're there, and when they see it, they might have 600 matches, and then all of a sudden I put a pool in there and they've got 12. They're like, where did all the homes go? Well, there's only 12 in this price range in this area that fit this. So when I take that out, now you got 500. But do you really need the pool? Do you want the pool? Is it a must? Is it not? And so it shows them what you're dealing with, because guess what? You're going to set them up on a search, and then they're going to go online to Zillow and Realtor.com, and they're going to find their own home. And I can't tell you how many clients are like, I had one that about 3 years ago. I want a 1-story, has to have a 3-car garage and 3 full bathrooms. And then like 2 weeks into it, the husband calls me and he's like, how come you didn't show me this home? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just found it on Zillow. And I'm like, okay. So I pull it up and I'm like, it says 2.5 bathrooms. That's why it did not come up in your search. You were adamant. You wanted 3. I put 3. Well, I'm okay with the half bath. Whoa. Great. You know how many we've missed in the, So there's a saying, they say buyers are liars and sellers are worse. But anyways, so with that, they give you information, but then they change it. And that's why there's a new form called the buyer broker. Oh, it's not new, but buyer broker agreement, buyer broker representation, BBRA agreement. Yeah. And the old one was called the buyer broker agreement, BBA. Sorry, I don't know the acronyms, but I myself have always used a buyer broker agreement since day one. Very few realtors use it, but I got burned once, and I did all this work, and then they went with another realtor because they called a sign, and they're like, "Oh, we just went under contract over here," and I'm like, "I have been showing you homes for 3 months. We were meeting tomorrow. They're like, yeah, but we just drove by this one and now lost it. Took me one time and I said, nope, you're going to sign a buyer broker agreement. When I take a listing, I have a listing agreement. It just made sense to me that when I had a buyer agreement. So now it's mandatory starting August 19th or 17th or something like that. You are required to have a buyer broker agreement signed. It is the first thing you do. You are not allowed to show them one home without that document signed, right? So when you're doing your initial paperwork, you're gonna have a duties owed and you're gonna have that buyer broker agreement signed. And then that allows you to go into any home, any new build, anything that you want. But they've agreed to work with you. And then what commission? Did you have a question?
Is this where you negotiate what they're gonna pay you?
Now here's the thing.
How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, so it's all the way that you explain it and understand it really, but for the last 100 years, it's always been the seller that's paid the commission. But really, if you think about it, that commission has been put in that price anyways. So the buyer gets a loan on that, so it's really the buyer paying for it. I mean, it just really, but some sellers are like, I'm not paying for it. I just don't. Well, guess what? Their homes very rarely sell. They just sit there because most buyers can't afford a 5% down payment plus a 3% closing cost. So you're looking at $30,000, $40,000 just for them to buy the home. And now you're asking the buyer to pay their own buyer's agent, which is another $15,000. Very few people have that much money to put down on a home, right? So with that, back in the day, we used to put our listings in the MLS. And there was a little box in there that would say, when I type in my search criteria for my buyers, I tell my buyers, I have a buyer broker agreement signed, I get X percentage. If the seller doesn't pay that or all of that, whatever's left is a buyer cost. Do you want to work with me? Just letting you know. And I'm like, some agents will take whatever they get. I will not. My time is valuable. This is what I designate, my value is worth. They say, yes, I'll do that. Great. I said, but don't worry, I'm going to get the seller to cover all of it if I can, as much of it as possible. Well, there used to be a little button in there when I'm setting up their search that says co-op. And I would put in 2.5% or 3% or 4%, and it would only send them the homes that had that percentage back in the day. Well, about, 5, 6 years ago, they took that little box out of there. So now I had to show them everything that's on the MLS, regardless of what the commission was. Didn't bother me any because I had a buyer broker agreement signed. And if that seller only put in their 2% and I put 3%, guess what? That buyer's paying me that extra percent. I didn't worry, but most realtors were not using that buyer broker agreement. So about 2-3 years ago, they came down and they said, we don't want your commission displayed anymore. So on Zillow and whatever, it can't be an MLS, you cannot have a commission displayed. No, sorry, take that back. First they did, you have to display it. So now every time a buyer would go to Zillow, it said buyer's agent commission is gonna be 3% or 2.5%. And it's like, why does the general public need to know all that? It's how I'm getting paid, but whatever. Well then, this is what this NAR thing just came about. They no longer want our commission displayed anywhere. They can't decide what they want, right? What does it matter what we're getting paid? They're just saying we're all colluding and saying we're not gonna show homes unless we all get this one commission. That's not the case. So that's why they said we're gonna remove the commission everywhere so nobody can see it. And every offer is going to have the buyer's agent's commission in there. It's part of a negotiable thing. So everything in that offer can be negotiated on. The closing cost, the price, your commission. So they agree to everything and then they take out your commission. And you look at your buyer and like, you can have this house, but you have to pay me $15,000 in commission. I don't have it. Well, I guess we're going somewhere else. And they lose the house, boom, and then I take my buyer somewhere else. Because if my buyer can't pay it, he can't pay it. But he already signed my buyer broker agreement that says he has employed me for a certain amount of time to find him a home at this pricing. So with that, the listing agreement will have what the seller is paying the listing agent. The RPA, which is a residential purchase agreement, your offer, will have what the buyer's agent is asking the buyer and seller to pay. So I'm gonna have my buyer sign X%, and then when I write the offer, I'm gonna put that same percentage in there. And then if they say I'm only paying this much, then I'll say you can have this house, but it's now gonna cost you 1% of that 3 or 4 or whatever it is that I put in there, right? Everybody, you can negotiate your own commissions. Just know that when you are on the mentee program, there's a 70-30 split. That 30% goes to Realty One Group for the upfront training and everything. That's charged on a 2.5% commission. So if you only take a 1 or 2%, just know you're going to get that 30% that Realty One charges you as if you got 2.5%. It's not like you're gonna, I mean, it's a couple $100, $1,000, whatever. It just depends on that sales price. So we'll go into that later, but I have agents that are like, I'll just do it for 0.5%. Okay, but that's going to cost you money. You know, you can't expect to get training. There's many brokerages in town that won't even take new agents unless you've had like 10 transactions. They won't train you. They don't have a training program. So Realty One gives you all the training for free up front, but there has to be some kind of compensation for it because it takes time away from all the other agents. So that's where that is, right? So back to the commission. You're going to write in your in your RPA, the purchase agreement, what you're asking for, what you've asked the buyer. Now, if you write your buyer broker agreement for 3%, you better ask for 3%, right? If you write your buyer broker agreement for 2% and that seller offers you 3%, guess what? You're only getting 2% because you only asked the buyer for 2%. I'm only asking for 2%. They can give you 10%, but you only asked for 2%, so guess what? You left it all on the table.
So what would you recommend doing?
We're being recorded. So, no, I can tell you what I do. But I've been doing this for 20 years, and I have value. I feel I have value to give to my clients. So I do 3.5%. Now, if you buy or sell 3 or more properties with me, I do reduce that to 2.5%, not 2.5%. One time I worked for 2%. One time because he was a veteran. He lived in the subdivision next to me. It was my friend's referral, and guess what? It was the worst transaction ever. I had to get the police involved. I had to get he threatened to kill me. He threatened to kill my family. He threatened to kill the inspector. He threatened to kill everybody. He had PTSD. Like, there was a whole big thing. So it was a nightmare. And I'm like, all this for 2%. You know, that just wasn't something that I could do. But you might do certain things because you have family, or it's your own personal home, or like whatever. It's always been negotiated on. It's negotiable between you and your clients. We've never set a price. Even the new builds, back in the day, they were giving us like 6%. Just bring a buyer in there. Like, they'll say 3% and then a 2% bonus. Awesome. So new builds are a little different. You can do a separate buyer broker agreement for that because it's gonna possibly have a higher percentage. So we have a ton of forms, classes on how to fill them out. But if you guys are ever meeting with a buyer, and before you meet with them, call me and I'll instruct you on how we should kind of talk that through and how you explain that to them. Because that's a whole nother class. But anyways, you're gonna get your buyer broker agreement, sign your duties owed, sign, and then you're gonna sit with them and then start them on a search. And then they're automatically gonna opt in to these automatic emails. And then they're gonna go, hey, I wanna see this one, and this one. What you're gonna do when you're doing that search, guys, BCC yourself on it. So every time they get a property match, you get a property match. And a lot of times they're working all day long. So you're gonna go through your emails and you're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what they told me they want. They love when you call up and say, hey, did you see that one that just came up on 123 Main Street? I think it's perfect for you. Do you guys have time this afternoon to go view it? I wanna get in there before anybody else. You have just won them over for the rest of their lives. They know that you are sitting there watching their stuff. And you'll get this all the time. You know the one you sent me at like 2 in the morning? I'm like, I think I sent you a couple, didn't I? Which one? I am sleeping. But it's an automatic email search. They literally think that you're sitting there just sending them properties. But that's how you're gonna show your value. But you've gotta stay on top of it. Don't set it and forget it and say, hey, call me when you find something you like. You've got to know, because some of these really good properties, they go quick. And then they're like, wait, I just saw it come up. Where did it go? You didn't call me. You didn't tell me. Yeah, that one went really fast. And you'll see some that'll go on the market and then within 2 or 3 minutes it's off. It's because they already had an offer. They negotiated with somebody else before, but legally they have to put it on the market and then take it right back off. So you can explain that to them. But if it sat a day or two and then they just disappeared and they're like, oh, I just didn't have time to show you. They lost their dream home because of you. and they are not happy, right? So sometimes you have to partner up with people and like, I can't get in there, but my partner can go show you. Pay somebody a door opening fee, $50, $75. Can you just open the door, take some pictures so I know what I'm looking at, and if they like it, then I'll go ahead and write the offer up. You can also say, hey, I'm really busy, I have my other job, you do it, just give me a 25% referral fee, whatever it is that you want to do. That's all negotiable between you guys, but you have to stay on top of all of your stuff, and then when you're setting them up on searches, you really have to be proactive on what you're doing. And then if they're not seeing anything after a week, there's nothing that they tell you, just say, you know what, I noticed that you haven't called, you haven't found any matches. Is there something we can tweak in there? Can I add 2 stories? Because these are just 1 stories. How about we do a 2-story with a 1-bedroom down if that's what you're really worried about, because they might have elderly parents living with them. They don't all need to be downstairs. You just find out what it is, because the more matches you can show them, the easier it is to find them a home. And they just think 1 story is the answer, but it might not be, right? So things that you're going to, and then it says, okay, so when you meet with them, you're going to do a buyer presentation, and then you're going to meet with title, and they have buyer guides, buyer and seller guides. Really nice book. I don't have any in here with me. Really, nice printed book, and it'll show them like the process and how to take title and all that. So that's really great to show your values, to leave them with some things, right? And title will help you with all of that. But you're going to set them up on a search for things like your maximum price. I like to do maximum, so you're going to put like 500 and then a minus sign, and it'll show them everything 500,000 and below. The area, how many, and I always ask them, how many people will be living in the home? Are we doubling up on some of the kids? Are they okay to share rooms? Does everybody have to have their own room? Number of bedrooms, preference of 1-story, 2-story, yard size, do you have any children or pets? Year of the home is important, guys. A lot of people don't think this, but some people don't want something that that's 30, 40 years old, but it's hard to think about. Like, I was doing 2000 and newer, and I'm like, geez, that's 24 years ago. Like, it's already so fast, but some people are like, I don't want anything more than 5 years old. So, it's just, you would put 2019 and newer, or whatever it is. Some people like the old ones. I have so many clients who are like, I like the old bones. I like the way they used to build it. They're on larger lots. They're usually no HOAs. They like that. So you're gonna have to find out. Sometimes they have an RV and they're like, I just don't want an HOA. I don't want them telling me this. I want to put whatever park on my side yard. I don't want them to tell me anything. You just got to find all that out. But and then you ask them, would you consider a new home? So new homes have a little bit more of criteria, because they have to understand that they're going to usually be closer together, smaller lots, but they come with a 10-year warranty. The first year they're going to come in after they've been in there a year, and then they're just going to do a touch-up on all these nail pops and anything. They're going to make a long list of things. So they've got that home maintenance after, which is super nice. But they kind of give up some of things because they have more rules and regulations usually, right? Then I always ask them, do you have any must-haves? Like, I must have a bedroom downstairs. I must have an island in my kitchen. It's crazy what people must have, right? But then once they go into these homes, they start going, well, I like this. I'm like, oh, but it doesn't have your must-have. Is that okay? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, husbands, must have 3-car garage. A lot of wives, I want my laundry down. But then they get into the home and then they're like, we could really do something with this. Like, oh no, this is great. So I like to have the list of their must-haves. But if we're not finding anything on their search, I'll say, hey, I took off that 3rd-car garage and put a 2-car, and it just opened up 200 more homes. Do you want to see that instead? If not, I'll just keep it at the 3-car. You just never know what it is their hot button. But there's also a checklist on Breakthrough Broker you can print out, or you can make your own that says, buyer checklist of what their wants and not wants and things like that, right? Next page we have, I think they're questions. Okay, initial buyer questions. Who referred you? You're looking to purchase a home for, I like this one. Are you purchasing your home for personal use or as an investment? Because that does differ. Because when they're an investment, they kind of want you to project or see what the going rate is for the rents. If they're looking to buy a rental home, hey, how much am I going to buy this for? Am I taking out a loan? And how much is that loan going to cost me as opposed to how much rent I could get? Also, it's long term. You can see what's been happening. The whole neighborhood has been kind of slowly depreciating. Might not be a good investment for them over the last 5 years. It's depreciated, and you're like, well, if you buy it now, it might depreciate even more. You know, there's some areas that appreciate and you're like, hey, this probably would be a good investment in the next 5 years. Don't know if they're holding it to have their children move in when they go to college, whatever that they're trying to do. But hello.
I don't know if any of them who might
the onboarding.
fit into
Gotcha.
the category.
Okay, we'll go over that too. Okay. And then, so you want to ask if they're going to personally be living in it, or if it's going to be investor. Also on that first initial phone call, are you working with any other realtors? Okay, because now we are required to have you sign a buyer broker agreement. And on that buyer broker agreement, there is a question, how many of these buyer broker agreements have you signed? You're hoping that they put 0. Because what you have to do, if they put one other one, guess what? I just want to let you know that if you sign this one with me and I find you a home, that agent can sue you for this commission. Not me, he's going to sue you. So you can cancel that one and work with me, or I don't like to step on other realtors' toes. I just don't. I'm very open and I'll just say, listen, they'll call me, like, I have an agreement, but I think you're more knowledgeable. I really appreciate that, but I'm not here to step on any other realtor's toes. So I can't really speak upon this or answer because they might have a different way of doing things. Now, they signed a buyer broker agreement. This new one can be canceled at any time. So you can show them homes for 5 months and all they have to do is send you a quick email that says, I no longer want to work with you. And you're done, which really stinks. But in there on the bottom of page 1, it says specifically, you can cancel at any time, but anything I have showed you in the last blank days, you cannot make, anything that I've showed you cannot make an offer on that same property for a minimum of these days. So I will always put 90 or 180 days in there that says, yeah, you can cancel on me today, but for the next 180 days, you can't make an offer on that house because I showed it to you.
How do you know if the offer, or how do you know?
You have to watch it. You have to watch it. So you're going to watch it. If that buyer cancels on you, guess what? You're going to keep going to the assessor's office for the next 30, 60, 90, 180 days, just seeing if they bought anything. And then when they bought it, you're going to look at the address, and then you're going to see when you showed it to them, and then that's what you're going to do. Yeah. So if you want to fight for your commission, that's what you have to do, because they're not going to tell you, hey, I bought a house and it was one you showed me, but they got the commission. They're not going to tell you that. Once they cancel you, you'll never speak to them again.
When they want to cancel you, they just send
An
you
email.
That's not fair.
I know. But you know what? We could do the same too.
You have a date.
If we don't want to work with them, we can cancel them too.
I was reading that agreement, and one part was, there was 2 checkbox. One was like exclusive and not exclusive. So you can choose either or.
I would strongly suggest you never do non-exclusive. Just
And
do
now you
exclusive.
can work with somebody else, right?
Which means I'm just gonna, and when you click non-exclusive, underneath that there's, it says Clark County, Las Vegas is what you're supposed to fill in there. And then there's a spot where you can fill in addresses. If you pick non-exclusive, you better put the addresses that you've showed them.
Yeah.
And it still pertains, they can't buy any of the homes that you've listed right there without you getting a commission. I have done that once in 20 years where I had these clients, I've since sold them 3 other homes, but he was a pilot and she was a ophthalmologist, I think. Really nice, but they didn't want to sign a contract. Well, I'm like, I only work with 5 buyers at a time because I give you 100%. I have 4 other buyers right now. You can choose not to sign it, and then I will show you homes whenever I can, or you can sign it, and now I will show you whenever that you need to. But everybody else that's got a contract gets first dibs. They said, no, we don't want to sign the contract. I said, okay, I'm just letting you know. Every single time we go out, you're going to sign one exclusively to the properties I'm showing you. And that's it. And so then that way, I do it for 180 days. They can't, if they see this home, they can't buy one of these for 180 days. Then otherwise, I'm due that commission.
That is a non-exclusive, right?
That one's exclusive. You're exclusive. Well, no, when you're putting the listing the properties is non-exclusive. And then when you say nope, you're just going to work with me only.
Yeah.
That's it. That's exclusively just working with me.
And when you make it exclusive, and then you choose the length, would it be 6 months? You recommend doing like?
Okay, I personally, if you're local, if I have local buyers, it's 6 months. If I have buyers out of state, it's a year. And the reason why I do a year is because they say they're going to come back into town next month. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I just got called in. I can. And then next month turns to 3 months. And now 3 months of your contract is gone. So no, if you're out of state, it's going to be a year. But again, they can cancel it at any time. So all they have to do is send you an email. Just send the email. So that's a tough one there, but is what it is. We're getting through this one, right? Okay. So, but when you're asking them if you're an exclusive buyer contract, that's what you want to know. And if they say, you know, I did work with another realtor, they always say, I don't remember if I signed it. Yes.
I just have a question. I don't know if you did this, but flippers, they want to like
Work with a multiple.
Have any off-market properties, you know, that are coming. You know, what do you do with people like that?
So quite honestly, we used to have what was called pocket listings. And the pocket listings were just like my friend says they're going to sell in the next month or two. And so I start marketing it. Not me, but you know, just in general, the agents start marketing it, but it's not an actual it's not an actual listing. Nobody signed a contract. They're just like, my friend's going to sell, so I know about this one. So these agents start marketing it. That's what the flippers and the investors want. They want ones that haven't hit the market yet, right? We don't really, I think they passed something a few years back that it's illegal to have a pocket listing. You can't, in this state at least, can't have a pocket listing. Either you have the listing or you don't. If you don't have it, you're not supposed to market it. If it's not on the market, actively listed, you're not marketing it. You know, you can have for sale by owners. That's why for sale by owners are very hard to sell, because they're hoping for somebody to drive by and see their sign, or go to Zillow, because Zillow has a section that says for sale by owner. But otherwise, they don't have the MLS. They're not on our MLS system. So the general public is not seeing it. So it's a little bit harder with the investors and the flippers wanting these pocket listings or off-market listings. That's all that it is it's the knowledge of something coming up, but it hasn't hit the market yet. Very few times does that happen. I mean, everybody says, oh, I'm going to be selling my house. I don't know when, though. Okay, why would you market their house? I mean, it's very expensive to market a home. When you do a listing, it's probably $400 to $1,000 before you even hit the market, because you have the sign post, the photos, the drones, the Matterports, your flyers, like all of that stuff, your block box before you even go live. Why would you want to invest that kind of money in something that you don't even have an agreement with? So you very rarely see them, but that's what they call. And what they're going is, oh, okay, hey, what they're trying to do, these investors, they're trying to have you call them before you go on the market. Hey, I've got my listing, let me call my investors first, and then if not, then I'll go live on the market. That's all they're trying to get you to do. I always just say to them when I get that phone call, I don't have any current listings now, but I'm going to keep your name and number. The next listing I get, I'll give you a call and see if you're interested in it. That's it. But they want to buy low, guys. The investors and flippers want to buy low. So unless you have a dilapidated house or somebody that just has to get off of it and they don't care about but how many people buy a house and don't care about the money that they're going to get out of it? Very few. But there are some people that just have to go. They have to sell fast, and I get that. But most people want top dollar, or they want to get all that money out of there. So I just say, yep, thanks, I'll keep your number. There's sometimes you'll have a cash a cash house, because nobody can get a loan on it. I had one, Sahara and Eastern. There was no plumbing. It was built in 1952. The plumbing, he was washing his dishes in the bathtub because it's the only sink thing that worked. I mean, it was just awful. But he was living in it for 5 years. And I was like, why did you do this? And he's like, well, I don't want to sell it. Well, I'm like, well, we have very few people that are going to buy it. And they did. They went through, tore down every wall, redid all the plumbing. He literally, in his fuse box, had the glass fuses. Way back then. I haven't even seen them. That was the first time I'd ever seen it in my life. So it was just so old. So at that point, it qualified for cash only, because no lender's loaning on that. Like, it's not even habitable at that point, right? So, all right. So then you're going to ask them, have you bought or sold properties in the past? Super important question, because you want to know how educated they are on the process. Because not everybody has bought a home. They could be a first-time home buyer. Or when their parents bought a home and they didn't pay attention to the process, right? So then if they say, yeah, I buy at least 3 homes a year, great, you kind of understand, but let me just explain how I do it. I still explain it to them. But if they've never bought a home, I'm like, great, let's sit down. I love first-time home buyers. I want to show you everything that you're going to experience. And I always tell buyer, seller, it's a very tumultuous transaction usually. But I'm here to make it seem like it's effortless. We are going to have bumps, up and down, up and down, up and down. I'll just let you know when we're going through something. Just know that there's going to happen. Very rarely are you going to have a smooth transaction, guys. Very rarely. So you just tell them, hey, remember when I told you we're going to have some bumps? This is one of those bumps. Okay, the appraisal didn't come in, and now they want this, Okay, and then they start to panic. Like, don't panic. It happens almost in every transaction. So I'm just here to show you. It's one of those bumps that we just have to get over, okay? So just kind of calm them down. But if you preface that with we're going to have it, then they're already kind of expecting it. If you don't, you look like you saved the day. But if you do, hey, I told you we're going to have something. But then you ask them, will you be paying cash or obtaining a loan? Have you already been pre-approved? If not, here's a lender stuff. Do you already have money set aside for your down payment and closing costs? Super important, because if they don't, guys, how long do you need to save up that money? And then say, okay, well, I don't know, I really can't save. Okay, so let's try to get you a a down payment assistance program. Let's talk with the lender. Down payment assistance programs are great. Give them $10,000, $12,000. Sometimes they need to be paid back. Sometimes they don't. They just have to live in the home for 5 years. So there's a lot of things they qualify for, and they don't have to come out of pocket. Closing costs can be given as a gift from a family member up to a certain value, $10,000 or something like that. Get with the lender. Again, I stay in my lane. I don't know all the qualification, but I'm like, you know what? The lender will tell us how big of a gift that we can get. It can be from anybody. But when they do that, they need to see bank statements from that person. So they want to make sure that that money is legit from whoever they're getting it from. So people are thinking, I'll just get my friend to borrow money. Well, guess what? Their friend doesn't want to show their bank statements. So now you're not getting that money. So you need to get those letters up front. Then yes, the friend's going to loan them. He's going to give his bank statement. They've already checked it out. It's good. Now we can go look at some homes. But you want to get all of that done up front, because otherwise you're going to get to like a week before closing. You're out of all contingencies. And now that friend doesn't want to show the bank statement. He doesn't have closing costs, and it's falling apart. And when it falls apart, now the buyer's lost their earnest money because you're out of all your loan contingencies and everything. So now the buyer's mad at you because you lost their $10,000 earnest money. It's just a whole big mess. So that's why you always want to just qualify them up right up front. Excuse me.
Question. So you show them the houses when they are pre-approved or when they are approved?
Pre-approved is the way to put it, unless it goes to fully underwritten approval. And some lenders do that. They get their underwriter to approve it right up at the beginning, but you'll still have hurdles. We don't know what the appraisal is going to come in at. We don't know if there's any repairs, but I always just say pre-approved. When they say, oh, I'm already approved. Okay, it's same thing as a pre-approval. I say, great, can I get your pre-approval letter? It's just a letter that says that they're approved.
Do we need them, so as the down payment approved? Because sometimes they don't have the 20%.
Yeah, so if they're going for more than 3 or 5% down payment, I say, great, do you have a bank statement to show me that you have that money in cash? And if not, they're like, hey, I'm getting it for my 401k, awesome. I tell the lender, and then the lender calls up and sees how long it takes to get that money out of the 401k. It could be 2 or 3 weeks. It could be any, or they'll say, I have my 401k. They don't realize a lot of times you can only take one loan out. So they took $5,000 out last year, but they haven't paid it back. They just think they're going to take $15,000 out now. No, they have to pay that $5,000 back in order to take out a new $15,000. So now they're like, they don't realize that. They just think they can just keep pulling money out of it, and they can't. So that's why you want the lender to inform the lender, hey, they're going to use money for their 401k, and he's going to start looking into that. That's the way you want to do it. Again, the only way to avoid all this is just get them pre-approved right up front. Let's see. Do you have any specific time frame? Again, are you currently renting? How long's the lease? Have you inquired about breaking it? Some apartment complexes will let you break the lease if you show them proof that you're buying a home. They just don't want you to break it to go to another rental. So sometimes they're nice about that, right? And then if they're getting a loan, do you need a referral for a lender? Next step would be to contact the lender to get the pre-approval, gather information, and then we'll start your search. So that's what brings us into this home buyer roadmap. So you can go to breakthroughbroker.com. You can go, like I said, Rock Title has one also. It's green and black, looks really cool. It's got your information on there. Also, I put in here, this is a little old because it says the past 18 years, but you want to do a write-up when you're doing a buyer presentation. We're working on a class on just a buyer presentation, but it's going to be a printout. We've got a digital one in the back office. I also like a paper flip chart one. You got to know your clients. Usually anybody over like 35, 40, they want paper. And then anybody under 40, they're like, oh, just give me the digital. I don't want to waste all that paper. So I do both, right? But so you're going to want to do a write-up about yourself. We have generic bios. that you can do. It doesn't have to be like, I've been in real estate for so long. It's customer service, the hotel industry, whatever it is that you want to do. You're going to write something because they want to know who you are. But you're going to get your photo done. That photo's going to go everywhere. You want to kind of stay consistent with your branding, your colors, your photo. There's a whole nother class we have on branding and stuff. So, but just get used to putting stuff together. I would put in my buyer presentation, I would put this, I would put my roadmap, I would explain the process, what the lender does, what the title company does. Duties owed looks like this, right? So you're always going to have your duties owed no matter if you're buying, selling. Yeah, it's all, this is the first document you're going to have everybody sign. This date and time on the bottom cannot match any other document, okay? So it's really weird. If you're going to sign your documents to somebody, to your clients, you would send them this duties owed first. They would sign it. It would date stamp it and send it back to you. Then you send them everything else together. But this one, what they're saying is if it has the same date as everything else, you presented it at the same time when it should have been presented before. And they audit files all the time for that. You do get fined. So duties owed always gets first. And then like if you're doing a buyer consultation at the end, I would say, before we go any further, I'm going to have you sign my duties owed. Read your duties owed. This is the duties you say that you're going to do as a realtor. It is not a contract of any kind. It is just offering the duties that you as a realtor will provide them, right? Reasonable scare and kill, exercise reasonable scare and care, respect to all parties, disclose to each parties in the real estate transaction as soon as practicable, any material or relevant facts. So you're going to go through that with them, and then after they sign this, you're going to present your buyer-broker agreement, right? And that's going to have a different date on it. Not a date, different time. Can have the same date. The time has to be different, even if it's 5 minutes later. Just make it later, right? But this have to always have a separate time. You can just, and if you make an offer and that offer falls out, you still have this signed. You don't have to keep having the duties owed signed. The duties owed and the buyer broker agreement is just what you need up at front, and then every other transaction will have multiple documents. It's just these two are really important up front before you start the process, okay? And then these last two are from the lender. Closing costs explained. What's a credit report fee? What's a tax service fee? Closing escrow fees, county property taxes, the reserve, the appraisal fee. This is a great thing. You're going to reach out to the lender. His cards are right outside the door. All of our vendor cards are right outside. But they can make this to you, put your information, his information there, your information on the other side. And it's great, a great handout to give to your clients. And then you go to title and you get the buyer guide and you put this all in there and then you leave it with them. They like when you leave them stuff to read. I've won listings because I've printed out my CMA, comparative market value, whatever. I printed mine in color and the other two agents didn't, and I won the listing. They're like, well, you're the only one that printed in color, like you took the time. It's the little things, guys. So when you leave them with stuff, this is free stuff from the lender. Realty One Group, we give you free, unlimited amounts of black and white and color printing. So if you tell the lender, hey, can I get a loan checklist? He'll email it to you, just come here and print it out. Like that's all your flyers, everything, that way it'll save you some time and money. But you can leave it with your clients. That's all I have for this class. Does anybody have any questions? I know we went over, but I had a lot because I got so many new people. Questions? Yes.
You mentioned transaction desk. Isn't there also like Remind Docs or something like that?
Remind Docs, yeah. So Remind, they tried to get us all to switch over like 3 years ago, and none of us did it. And it was the day before, and they're like, it's shutting down. We're like, nobody used it. Like there's a handful of agents that use it. So then they just canceled it. It's there as a backup, but nobody's really using it. You want to stick with Transaction Desk because all of our Realty One documents are uploaded in there. Everything's uploaded in there. If the LVR eventually makes us change, they can try to push us back that way again. It's kind of like, I think it was Dotloop or something like that. There's another system that some other brokerages use as well, where you can edit them inside there. I don't know, I've been using Transaction Desk my whole time, so I was one of those agents that are like, I took 3 classes of Remind and I'm like, I am just not getting this. It was very hard for me to change over, so I would learn on Transaction Desk because I don't think it's going away anytime soon. They tried it and it didn't work, so stick with Transaction Desk, and then SkySlope is our digital file area there too. Any other questions about the class? Yep.
So when we get all the paperwork, do we email Maria, and she opens SkySlope for Kelly, and we load things into SkySlope.
Yep, so what, you don't want to upload anything into SkySlope, but you do want to log in here, and then you want to go to SkySlope and make sure it's all set up, because she can't upload anything if you haven't activated it, right? But what you're going to do is you're going to negotiate everything back and forth. When everybody's accepted, you're going to email me, Tim, and Maria all of the documents, and you're going to say, Maria, please TC this file. And she will open it in SkySlope, and then that's when you can log in. And she's going to start, she puts them in there, but she reviews them, make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, dates are in there, initials are where they're supposed to be at, and then she uploads it. And then if it's completed and nothing needs to be done, it turns green and says complete. But then if she uploads it, it might turn purple and says incomplete, and then she'll put in there, needs date on this page or needs the seller initials here, and you just go back there. So that's when you go in there and you're like, okay, let me see where she uploaded it, because some of the documents are not named the same thing. So when you go to Transaction Desk and you're looking at this checklist, and you're like trying to find these little documents in there, they're not the same, because we don't label them in Transaction Desk. That's done by the LVR. So our document names might be a little bit different. So that's why she's like, okay, it gets confusing, right? So you'll learn to figure through that, but we just call them something different. But it's all the same documents that's required. So you'll just fill them out, then email them to all three of us, and then she'll put it in there and then make the correction notes, and then you just get used to how it all works through that. Okay, so next, first Wednesday of every month, we are doing the new agent onboarding. And I think, what is it, September 11th, so this Wednesday, right? Yes, today's the 9th. So this Wednesday, from 1 to 2:30, it is Zoom only. And then October 10th, and that's going to be held by Jeff Wallenfang at the Northwest office, but it's Zoom, so you're just going to log in. And he's going to go through all the back office systems, all of that stuff. And then we'll have our vendors jump on there. They kind of tell you what their purpose is, what their role is. And then October 10th, Tim will be doing a Zoom only one as well. So anybody that does need one, let me just shut this off.